Alrighty, so we are live here. Hi, everybody. This is Jamil. I'll give you people just a minute so they can join our workshop. Hi, Marieta. Nice to meet you from Alabama. Very cool. All right, so to get things started, let me introduce myself, of course. So I'm Jamil. I'm the director of product operations here at VitaWorks. Have been working here for almost 11 years now. And a quickie, uh, just sharing my background real quick with you. So I started in VitaWorks as intern, and then I started in the projection management side of the company 11 years ago. And then I evolved to work with our global marketing clients in projection localization. Then I started leading a team of projection managers, worked as part of our customer success team, then became team leader of the customer success, started working closely to our tech team, the platform. So that's what's called VitaWorks 1.0. So now we have the platform we have access to is the second version. Let's put it that way. That's called BWX. Uh, so responding to hi Caroline, nice to meet you from Holland. Marietta, this is a localization platform. So it takes this platform works for translators, for translation agencies, for enterprise clients. The goal of the platform is to assist people to get their content localized, to get people paid for the job that they performed, to get people to know how they are performing on the jobs that they are translating. So that's again, I will cover more in detail about the platform, especially about our translation editor in this session. But yeah, that's a quick overview of the platform. So just continuing, so then I started working as closer to our tech team in the platform. I became the head of product and then director of product operations. So, and yeah, that's me. I'm based in São Paulo, Brazil, and it's nice to meet you all. So it's a pleasure to be here. That's our second session. I'm going to share with you a link for the previous session where we cover. So I just sent in the chat. So I just sent you this link from the previous session where I cover some of the topics that I'm going to show you in a minute. And today we're going to continue the session, talk about the other topics that I was not able to cover in the previous session. Before we begin, so this session will take place every week. So it is focused mostly on the translators. So for you, that's a translator or someone who manages uh, translation dash localization purposes in this industry, this session is for you. So you can learn how to use the platform. Uh, so I will show you, like in practice, how to use our translation editor, as I just mentioned. But I also want to share with you some concepts, especially about AI usage in BWX, and that's what I'm about to show you. So give me just a split second so I can start sharing my screen, and then we can go from there. By the way, so I can see this message, the message in the chat. So hi, Anita from London. Um, if you have questions during the session, please feel free to send in the chat. So I mean, I'll do my best to respond to the questions that you have during this session. All right. All right. So hi, Mafalda. Good to see you here. All right. So I hope you all can see my screen already. So let me just change for myself here as well. All right. So I created this quick presentation just to guide us through the session. I'm not going to just read the slide, of course. So, but one of the things that I try to put in here in this presentation is like it's starting with the theme, with the title of this presentation. So, how BWX can make content translation fun and productive. Because yes, I'm going to show you how to use the platform, and like technically speaking, how you translate content with your editor. But one of the key things that I want to show you and explain to you is how the platform works. So that, along with how you can translate content in the platform, is really powerful, and also how we envision the AI advancements and tech advancements in this industry. I think that is going to be helpful so you can understand better who we are as a translation company, as a tech company as well. And that's going to help you and guide you on how to make the best usage of our platform. All right. So again, if you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to send in the chat. I do my best to pause here and to respond to the questions in the appropriate times. All right. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to read this again. I did this in the previous session, but I think it's important for everyone that who is here to understand that concept. So when we say BetaWorks and we say technology and AI and all that for large language models, it is not about replacing humans with AI or large language models, but about learning how to use the tools we have at our disposal to make humans even more efficient at what they do. So to start, we are not trying in any way to replace languages or to do anything in this sense. So the goal is here to give you a tool, because that's what BWX is a tool that will help you to achieve your goal, whether it's translating faster, translating better, to making more money, to have fun time translating content. And when I say fun time, I'll get there, but basically, instead of like using or focusing most of your time on finding those missing commas in the translation that you just type it or that have been proposed by machine translation or the translation memory feed. So instead of focusing more time on that, the platform, the technology can help you with that. And then you can focus on what's probably the most important thing is that how the end clients, how the target public, the target audience is going to see that information, how they're going to understand that information. So I always say that internally. So I have some internal training sessions with the team. Communication is not about what you are saying. That's important, of course. But most important is how people are understanding what you are sharing with them, right? So if I put something in a website of our clients and the message does not really cause the real impact that I was expecting, that should be a problem, right? So instead of trying to focus on or trying to find those missing commas, missing tags, and fixing that, spending your time on that, the platform can help you to resolve that automatically. And then you can focus, okay, so this is for people that are based in Germany. So, and I have to adapt this translation for this target audience so they can, so this translation here, this, I don't know, so this header will cause the same impact that's causing to the target audience in the USA, for instance, right? So, in my opinion, and again, that's just my opinion, that's should be the main focus of the translators. And I know that in the current scenario where you have feeds that does not have maybe the right tone or don't follow exactly the structure that you would like to be using in the translation, yes, you do have to spend probably not most of your time, but a lot of time fixing those small things, right? So the platform is here to try to address that so you can focus on what really matters. All right, so going to the topics again, I cover most of those, or in the previous session, I stopped it right in this exercise, but I'm just going to do a quick, hi, Nealis. Yes, you can. Feel free to join us. Happy to have you here. By the way, Nealis, anyone that joined in the last few minutes, so I just shared a few minutes ago, 7 minutes ago, precisely, a link to the previous session where I cover all these topics here that are not highlighted. So, but I'm going to just give you a quick overview before we begin from where we start, right? Because I think that's important. All right, so let's go to directly into the BWX editor. Quick overview so we can get things started. So first things first, on top right, that's an import button that some people some does not does they have some a hard time sometimes to find it. That's this help button. If you click on it, you can see keyboard shortcuts that usually are very, very helpful for translators that are spending several hours a day a week translating content. So that can help you to be faster while translating content. So that's the first tab, the first item. Again, real quick here. So file name, file size, language combination. So this file is from English US into Portuguese Brazil. Number of segments here, 0 out of 98 segments. And the progress is 0% because I have not confirmed any segments yet. I will do that throughout the session. I can also see here in this icon, information icon, the word count, segments, and charts counts as well. What else? All right, so in here, if I go and click in here on the first tab, comments, I can add comments to this particular segment. So these comments can be, for instance, I'm the translator and I want to communicate to whoever is going to take care of the next step. That's probably review step. That I choose it to use this translation here for any given reason, right? Or maybe I want to ask a question to someone, to the project manager, so I can use this comment session like that to create a thread where I'm communicating with people that are participating of this project. Or I can also turn this into a private comment. So private comments, by the way, only you can see. So for instance, that's probably like a reminder. So I chose to use Presos for pricing because I remember that last year actually a similar document to the same client and they requested me to use that, even though this translation is not in the translation memory or in the glossary for any given reason, right? So just a quick example, that's just you can see. So project manager can see that, can't see that, and or any other translator. So that's just for you, so you can remember yourself or something, right? Um, oh, I'm so sorry, Maria. I just saw. It's good that you're walking us through because the screen is hard to. Okay, so let me try to. If anyone is having a hard time to see my screen, please let me know if now it's better. I just zoomed in a little bit. I hope that got better now. If it does not, please let me know. All right, so comments, that's that. So private, so sorry, public comment, or I can turn it into a private comment where just myself can see it, right? Perfect. Thank you for confirming, Marieta. All right. So, and again, just to recap, so the help button is top right in here, right? Next up, suggestions, second tab. So that's probably where you're going to, as a translator, you are probably going to spend most of your time while you're translating content because this is where the translation memory, glossaries, machine translation feeds lives. So let me open one that has all of those. Maybe next one. Let me just find one in here. Okay, that's one. So for instance, translation memory is in green. We could have multiple, of course, if that there are multiple entries available in translation memory. Machine translation. Right now, the one we are using for this demonstration is DPL. What else? Terminology. So this terminology was added to this particular segment here. Sorry, to this particular glossary, and this segment have all these terms that are showing up here. I'm going to talk about that and explain it better in a few minutes. Also, CAD info, if I click on any translation memories feeds, I can see like some details about it. Okay, so this is a perfect match because exactly as it was translated in the previous document. And the context is also the same. So this was the previous text when I stored this in my translation memory previously. This is the next segment, translation memory, where this is coming from, file name, etc. And if this is not 100 or 101% translation memory match, you can see why, right? Because maybe in the source content, they removed learning from this for this new version of this file, right? So now this translation memory is no longer, this translation memory suggests is no longer 101%. It's probably going to become around 90%, right? So when you click in here, and go to see any difference, you can say, okay, oh, okay, I got it. So they remove the learning from the source. I have to adapt this translation by removing learning from it as well. Then I can confirm the same. So let me see. Caroline has a question. Did you treat attaching and turning glossary in the previous workshop? More or less. I can talk about that in the next session for sure. So I did not cover these specific pieces because this is focused mostly on the translator side, but they definitely can focus on that on the next session. So for the translator or as a translator, if you are receiving content from your client, translation memory glossary is already there. So your client is responsible for selecting which translation memories and glossary will be used for that project. But if you become a BWX describer, and as an account admin, then yes, then let's say that you have your own account and you are assigning content to someone else or to yourself to translate that content, then yes, you can associate translation memory and glossary to the projects as you wish, but I can cover that in the next session, so I can talk more about this different scenario, this different use case, where you are the owner of the project, not only the translators, and then you can make the choice. Okay, so this is a marketing content. Let me use this marketing translation memory or this glossary that has marketing content in it. So then I can do a better job using those assets, if that makes sense. All right. So, perfect. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. I will send you an article from a help center that's helpful, but I definitely can cover that. I think that you probably should you understand based on our articles, but if you can be here in the next session, I can definitely cover. Or maybe if you have time today, I can cover that by the end of the session for sure and show how that's done. So that's probably can be covered like in just a few minutes, right? Okay, so let me go back in here. Okay, so that's I just reviewed this first three tabs in here. Two tabs, excuse me. Okay, next up, instructions. So these are instructions for the translator, for people who are working on this file. It could be like text as instructions or reference files. So you attach it, maybe a PDF that have, I don't know, context for the user or your style guide or something, right? So that will be available here if that was uploaded to the project. QA issues. So the common QA issues that you run, okay, let me check if there are missing tags, if there are double spaces or double words on that file, missing tags, or any problems in terms of translation length, and etc. So there are a lot of basic and not so basic checks in here. By the way, you can also save the ones that you use the most. For instance, let me see if I already have one saved in here. No, not really. But I can, for instance, let's say that I'm a project manager, and one of the things that I want to do, I want to check before I deliver this file, if the file has tags mismatch, right? Because tags literally can break the file when you upload them back if tags are missing or in the wrong place. That can basically break an application or not allow you to upload the file back into their system. So I can save this filter. So I can say, for instance, okay, tag zone. And then every time that I want to run that, I don't need to unselect or select all these options. I can just click in here and click in here, and then that will automatically apply these tags only. And I can apply or run for this entire file or multiple files if I open like the joined files as well on my screen. Next up, search translation memory. So that's kind of touch on what Carolina just asked about translation memory. So this is searching specifically, this in the next one, that's glossary, that's kind of the same mechanism. They are searching specifically in the glossary and translation memories associated with this project, not all your glossary, right? So for instance, again, let's say that this is that's a project that was created under a marketing organizational unit that has a marketing glossary or marketing translation memory. If I search for terms in here or for any content in here, I'm searching specifically on those two assets, that translation memory, that glossary. If I have another organizational unit that has legal content or technical content, when I'm searching here, I'm not searching on those, unless, of course, I added those translation memories and glossaries to my project, right? If that makes sense again. So I'm searching specifically on the assets associated with this project that I'm working on. Next up are the filters, source, and target. I can search for content, the source of the target. I can find confirmed and not confirmed segments and other options we have here, like translation memory matches. And I can set, okay, so equals to 99% only, or above or below a certain threshold. I can also find and replace at the bottom here. Translation change, I can literally see any change that have been made to a given segment. For instance, let me open maybe this one. If I change this and then change it back, as you can see it, without confirming the segment, so just a pause here, I'm not storing in the translation memory, right? So I'm just showing you a translation change that was made. So if I make any change in here, again, for instance, and then go back to that segment, I'm going to see it. So I remove the R here at the end, I add the period. So all this without confirming the segment. So that's not saved, stored in your translation memory yet, until, of course, I click on this to confirm that segment. But just to explain, so that's basically, I want to know why or who changed this translation and confirming the segment, right? So that's an example on how you're going to be using that. This one is just there are some preference in terms of activating or enabling AI or not, spell check or not, how you see the content in the editor. You can change night mode to light modes, change the font settings, etc. And last one is if your client uploads a PDF, or if you are a subscriber of the platform and you create your own project and you upload a PDF file to it, you can add the markups. Okay, so change this font on slide number 3 to that other font, for instance. So just a quick example. So you can mark up PDFs in here if they're uploaded to the project. All right, so that's just a quick recap. Now, let's find the beginning context. So I'm going to open an image here so I can explain to you what I mean by context. Context in BWX, specifically, we're talking about translation memory, glossary, machine translation, right? That's context for us as a platform. How we use context. So in the industry, in general, you use context in the following way. So you go to a segment. Let me open one that's maybe is empty, like this one. Let me remove this translation, actually. All right. So you, as the translator, will go in here. You say, okay, so that's the source content. I want to translate that into, so in my case here, Portuguese Brazil. So I don't have any translation memory feed, so I'm going to apply the machine translation feed that I have available. So then I can just edit what's needed here. So to match the translation proposing the source, right? So then right away you see that, for instance, API, okay, so I have API in the source, I have API in the target, so that means that I'm following the glossary, all right? Platform in the source is translated by the machine translations platform, which is not incorrect, by the way. But in my glossary, in your client's glossary, they want that to be translated system, translating back into English. So it's system. So they want platform to be translated as system in Portuguese, right? What do? You go in there and you add this translation here. All right, so now I'm following the glossary. Okay, are there any other changes that I have to make to this sentence here so I can confirm the segment and store in my translation memory? If yes, then I am going to make the additional change until I'm happy with the results, and then I can confirm in the segment. I'm going to talk about that just in a minute. So that's basically what you do, right? As a translator in general, again, if you have translation memory, you're going to basically do the same and just adapt the content depending on the context, and then until you're happy with the translation and confirming that translation. All right. Now going back to my screenshot here. Okay, so why is different in BWX? Because the context sensitive is literally context sensitive. What does that mean? So if I'm going to, let me again remove this. I'm going to ask AI to translate that. So I'm going to run the context sensitive translation in here. Okay, so what happened? That was different. So AI received context, which is, as I mentioned, machine translation, glossary. Translation memory is not available for this particular segment, but if it was also going to be used as context. And then automatically, let's put it that way, AI is adapting my content, my translation, based on the context. So based on what is in the source, based on what I have as a term in the glossary, what I have, what have been suggested by the machine translation. So as you can see, right away, it is different, the translation, right? So it is following the glossary, it's using Sistema, as opposed to Plataforma, which is proposed by the machine translation, again, as I mentioned, which is not wrong, but is not the client's preference. So in their view, that can be considered as wrong, right? They remove the A in here and just keep it BWX and APR first. Let me see if there's a reason for that. Okay, so AI made a decision based on the context that to keep, so as we keep API in English based on the glossary, that first should be kept in English as well. Is that correct? Maybe. So that's why AI is not confirming the segment. AI is proposing to you or to your translator if you're not translator. So your translator can read the sentence, read the proposal made by AI based on all the context that was given to AI, and then make a decision. No, okay, I agree. I agree that in this case in here, as I keep it, for instance, API English, it does make sense to keep first English as well. So in Portuguese, people will understand that, or maybe not. Maybe they will not understand that. So what I do, I go here, you change that. So maybe I'm going to add something like focus on API. Like it's a different way to say kind of the same thing that's in the source, right? Then how AI is learning from that? When I confirm the segment, this is going to be stored finally in your translation memory, right? So in the translation memory, next time that I have this translation in here, the translation memory will propose this to AI because it was stored in it. And the AI will understand that, okay, so last time API first was translated this way. So an AI most likely will follow that. Why most likely? Just to make it clear, most likely because depending on the context, when I say context in this scenario, it may be like the source content in here. Depending on the source content, it can make sense to keep it in English. Let me give you an example. So we receive a file that should be translated from English into Portuguese Brazil. But the sentence in here, in the other document, it is like a code, right? So you have the same content, but within brackets. That's most likely a non-translatable content. So AI can make a decision on keeping the entire sentence in English, right? So that's something that AI does. So it try to understand the context based on everything in here, and then propose something that makes sense. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mafalda, for responding to the question. I did not see the second question by Caroline. That's most likely it, but I'm going to probably have some time at the end of the session to briefly show how that works because that does not happen automatically, and I'll explain why when I get to that point. But anyway, so going back here again, context. That's context, and teaching AI means again you are teaching AI by adding content to your translation memory by confirming the segments or to add into a glossary. For instance, I can see here that BWX is not a glossary term. But BWX is not translatable. It's a platform name. So maybe it makes sense to teach AI by storing in my glossary that BWX is BWX, right? So next time that I have a segment that has BWX in it, I don't risk having that translated. Again, I don't think that would be the case, most likely, but that maybe is not a good example. But there are other terms that maybe I want to translate in a given way because I know that for this industry that makes more sense, that it's going to cause more impact to the clients, etc. So I teach AI by doing that. And why I'm saying all that is because let me just change my window here really quick that's different than that. I use AI as well. When I say AI, people understand GPT and yes, GPT is one of the ones that's really, really powerful. And I do that, I use that. But I use that for content that's not sensitive. So for instance, I can use two examples here. So I asked AI to validate an answer that I gave here about something. I asked AI to talk about some name for roles, some project management responsibilities. So I validate some things with AI that are not like from clients, of course, are not confidential information. Why is that? Excuse me. Why is that? Why am I saying that? Because when I do that, when I go to ChatGPT, so or any other AIs, and I type something here, that is being used for retraining AI. So what that means, AI is learning from that, from you, from what you there, what you put in there. Oh, okay, but I just copied and pasted there and did what I just tested. It's already stored. Excuse me. AI is already learning from that. And again, if that's not sensitive content, that's not a problem. So for, I don't know, personal questions or for something that's not really like confidential or sensitive, that's fine. I use that. And I recommend you to use that. So it's pretty cool, by the way. And that really helps a lot. But what it does is different from what it does, right? Because everything that you put in there is out there in the web and is used for training the AI. BWX is not doing that. What the BWX is doing is different. And now, oh, actually, I'm so sorry. I did not share my screen here with you. Or maybe I did. Okay, let me go back to my presentation here. Okay. So what happens that's different? The content that you are adding here, when I say that we are retraining AI or training AI, what I mean is that we're training based on the content that is in your translation memory and glossary. We're not actually sending content that's being stored somewhere out there in the web that's used by AI for your content and for anyone else, right? So that's used just for you. So that content goes directly to API. That's basically a channel where we directly send the content to GPT in an encrypted way that's not being stored in there. So when I say training, that's just so you can understand that concept. We're training based on what you have here, right? What that means in simple words. If I delete this glossary now, or if you delete the translation memory that's in here, everything that I cheated the AI is lost. I'm not going to be able to leverage that. I just added BWX to my glossary here, right? Okay, so now I go to my project and I say that that glossary is no longer relevant, right? So I go in there and maybe I remove this glossary. All right. Or maybe I delete the glossary actually from the platform. AI is not going to use that. So next time you translate the BWX, you are going to receive the machine translation feed, and AI can be translating that because again, the knowledge is stored exclusively in your knowledge base, translation memories, and glossaries in BWX, right? So all that to explain what's context and how that works. So again, just a quick illustration here. Context-sensitive, large language models use translation memory, glossary, machine translation to propose a better translation feed for users um, to make decisions, basically. So whether I agree with AI, that's a good translation, I'm going to confirm it, or no, I do not agree with AI. What I do, I teach AI. I teach AI how I want that translated by adding terms to the glossary, by making changes confirming the segment that will trigger that content to be stored in the translation memory. Um, Hi, Nellis. Sounds hampering play will be coming. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, this is being recorded, by the way, so that will be available as well for you, so you can watch it later if that works better for you. All right, so that's the concept around context-sensitive translation and context when it comes to BWX. Now let's talk about um, context sensitive in this exercise, right? So exercise, I mean, like literally, we're going to some segments here and translate them. I know that don't speak Portuguese, but I'm going to do that work and translate that for you. So let me just have a quick look at the questions or comments in the chat. Thank you for being in the chat. It's my pleasure, Marina. Florida had a QA error issue, and this may be specific to our user. Be receiving. Okay, okay. All right. I'm going to have a look into that, and we're going to maybe, if you have time at the end of the session, I'm going to try to cover that and share with you some knowledge around that, if that's something that I can help you with. But before that, let's just jump into this, go into this exercise. All right, so now I'm basically a translator, okay, in the platform. So I'm going to translate this content. The review piece is just a little bit different. I'm going to show that as well, but let's start with a translator, right? So I received this file. This file was pre-translated. So most or some segments were 100% match. Maybe from your client, we already pre-translate that and automatically confirm that and lock that, maybe not, right? So that can vary depending on the client, but let's do this translation. Okay, so segment number 35 is not human or machine, but human and machine. Não se trata de humano ou máquina, mas de humano e máquina. So it was a literal translation, but it does make sense. There's no change in here. Okay, so as a translator, I'm happy with this translation. I'm just going to confirm, right? That's it. Okay. Now, let's maybe go to one that's maybe trickier, maybe that has more glossary terms. Let me see if this one has. All right, so this one, or maybe, okay, so this one has some glossary terms in it. Okay, we enable you to automate integrate all fundamental concepts of translation localization. Okay, so what happens in here, right? So we have 100% match again, just to recap, depending on how you receive the content, this was probably already confirmed and unlocked, but in this scenario, let's say that that's not the case. So your client wants you to review everything, right? As a translator, or retranslate anything that's missing. And also review what have been translated in the past. All right. So one thing here is that we are saying that translation and localization. Translation is tradução, and localization, it is localização, yes, translated correctly here in the glossary. All right, but let's change something here maybe. Let's change in the glossary and say that translation is translation. It should not be translated. For any given reason, my client wants that to be keep it to English, and let's change basically, which is literally basic in Portuguese or English, excuse me. Let's change that to fundamental, which is literally fundamental in English. All right. So now I changed my glossary, but it does no longer matches what I have in my translation memory, which is 101%. But the glossary is kind of the same, except from the translation, which as I want to keep it in English. Let me ask AI to translate and let's see what happens in here. Now, I'm curious as well. All right. So what AI did, so some cool things here. First thing, let me just actually, I'm not going to apply yet, just so I can show you this better. But basically, I said that translation should be translation, right? AI proposed to me that it should be translated. So again, based on the context, everything, the knowledge that AI has, previous segment, next segment, translation memory, glossary, everything, machine translation, AI is understanding that in this context does not make sense to keep translation in English. It should be translated, probably because I translate everything else, right? That's one thing. The second thing is that I changed basic to fundamental right here. So AI did not just add fundamental to my translation. So because fundamental in Portuguese is singular, right? So in Portuguese we have a lot of like singular and plural. So it changed it to plural mode format so it is adapted to my context because that context in here that I have in the segment requires this term here to be plural, right? So AI is doing all that and remembering you that even though this is 101% match, the AI is proposing something different because it's proposed something that's most updated according to what I have in my glossary. In this scenario, for example, right? So again, just remembering that most likely, most cases at least that I know, usually those 101% segments are confirmed and locked automatically during pre-translation, but there are cases where the client may want you to review everything. And in these scenarios, because maybe they made like a huge update to their glossary, so in this scenario, they are a lot. But instead of like going through every single term in here, try to find the ones that have changed it, you can just use AI to adapt it to the content, right? What else? So going back to this translation mail, that's another mechanism. There's an explanation here, but basically is a semantic verifier. So we always say that having these mails in a segment is basically a mechanism that detects that something may be wrong or may not be the best translation for a given context, right? Does not mean that it's incorrect. It means that as a translator, we recommend you to have a look at this segment because maybe there's a better translation for that, or maybe the translation proposal is not matching what's being requested, what is in the source, right? So in my example here, is saying that terminology, the term pulse AI was translated as pós-edição IA, right? Which is incorrect. The correct translation should be pause AI. So AI is saying that. So does that mean that as a translator I have to agree with it? No. It means that AI is trying to propose something to you. And again, if you don't agree, I don't agree with AI. I understand that my translation makes more sense in this context. Okay, so you can just confirm it as it is, right? So again, AI is trying to assist you, right? It's not telling you how you should be working. It's actually exactly the opposite. You should be telling AI how you want AI to help you, right? And again, how you do it by making changes to the translation, storing the translation memory, adding terms to the glossary. That's how you dictate how AI is going to work with you, how AI can help you, right? Because no one wants a mechanism that's proposing something that's completely different from what you usually do, right? So I translate usually like using, let's say, a formal tone or informal tone. I don't want AI to propose the opposite because I'm going to then have to adjust everything to the other tone, right? So hi, Michael. So I want AI to translate in the same tone that I want that to be translated. So let me teach AI how to do it. I can, and AI again, learning from all the changes and choices that we're making. Of course, if that's activated, that's one important piece that I showed briefly previously, but you can deactivate AI, right? So you have the option as a translator in here. Um, Do I recommend that? Probably not. Probably are going to spend more time focusing on fixing small things rather than focus on the major things. One thing that I want to share with you that I think that's really important is for us as a translator is that do not expect, as I mentioned at the beginning, AI and BWX are tools. Do not expect them to make miracles, or don't expect them to make uh, a better job than you do as a professional, as a translator, right? So AI is trying to propose things that can help you, and at some point, AI learning from you, learning from your choices, can propose so much better to you. That's going to make the difference. Going to make you to make a better job. And when I say better job, again, not exactly about quality, but about how the public audience is going to understand that message that I'm sharing with them here, right? Because as a translator, you know, right? So we are not just literally translating, because if that was the work, we could use machine translation for that. And that's not what most people, most enterprises want. They want the translation to be good, to be perfect, to cause impact to the audience. So how you do that? By using tools that help you to get there, right? And that's how, at least, particular how I see it. And again, I'm saying all that because I think that's important for you to understand that AI is learning from you. So it's important for you to do not get frustrated if you go to the very first document, you open the platform, AI is proposing something completely different from what you usually do, and you say, okay, so that's bullshit. AI is really bad. Humans are really good, and AI is never going to replace humans. And yes, I agree with that. But that's not even the question. The question is, how can I use AI? How can I tell AI how I want AI to work for me, right? So I think that's most important thing. Let me see, Marietta. I want to see how BWX works with Bulgarian and English. Sure, I can show you that. All right, so that's that. I think that's, again, the work is the same. So I think that's why I'm focusing more on the concept and how the mechanism works, because the work is that. So as you usually do, you go to a segment, you receive a feed either from AI, machine translation to memory, make the adjustments needed, confirm the segment. What changes can seem to be small, but in my opinion, it is not. That's instead of like trying to find the needle in here that's missing, you know that the needle is already there in the right place. Now, let me focus in what matters, right? So how this is going to impact the target audience. All right. So, and then before I go dig into all these questions that have been sent in the chat that I promised that I was going to try to cover, let me just really quick try to impersonate a reviewer here. If you give me just a small second so I can impersonate a different user, so I can show you, because again, it's basically the same. It's just a little bit different, but I think that can make a huge difference for you. All right, so let me see if I can use this project. Probably is not completely yet. You can find another person here, which can help me to show you that. Let that load for a second. In the meantime, if you have additional questions, please keep sending in the chat. I'm going to try to cover that. All right, so I found here. Okay, I'm going to impersonate a reviewer. By the way, just so you know, I did not mention at the beginning, so this is a demonstration environment. So none of this content here is it is real. Actually, this file is, because this is from our website. By the way, I did not show this in the session because I showed in the previous one, but you can see the website in here. So what's happening here is that this is literally our website, which is English, and the platform is doing a attempt to match here in the translation to what we have in the website and translate that in real time, right? So you can see the translation that you are making in context. All right, so let me go in here, and this is, all right, so this is a reviewer account. I'm going to make a change here. I'm going to remove maybe um, I'm going to change instead of translates uh, literally translates faster to even faster, which is maybe redundant, but just to what happens then is that I'm prompted as a reviewer, just for reviewers, to categorize that change. AI is helping me with that again. If AI is activated, to categorize that. And what AI is doing here is trying to explain why you changed that. So AI say that the change that I made, the change I made in review improves the fluency of the words. I need still to emphasize the idea of relate even faster than the overall tone and flow of the sentence. I don't know if I agree with all that. I mean, I did that on purpose to try to emphasize even more, like the how fast you're translating. I can say that emphasize the even faster. Maybe I can delete all this and say that improves the fluency. So emphasize the review, emphasize the idea of translating effects. I think that would be like my explanation, right? But again, AI is trying to help me to explain that. And by the way, so I have some terms here that I'm not following that are in the glossary, but not are not being followed. I'm going to confirm this either way. But because I just and another one, same thing. I had just a parrot. When I click here, as I try to prompt me, sorry, to try to help me to categorize that. Maybe I this a grammar mistake, maybe not. Maybe I will say that that was a preferential change that I made that did not improve influence. Do I need to add a comment here? No, not really. I mean, unless your client requests that, or you understand that's important for you to share some knowledge with the translator who made that translation, you're not like required to enter a comment here. Again, it's preferential. The cool thing about the AI is trying to help you again to categorize that change so you don't have to spend additional time doing that on your end, right? And all that to say that why is that, right? So why do I have to add comments or why do I have to categorize this change? The idea behind that is to teach people that are translating content because again, as I mentioned about AI, so I'm not a translator, right? But I manage a lot of projects, like thousands of projects, and I know that can be really frustrated for a reviewer again and again and again receiving the same mistakes from maybe the same translator or from different translators, right? So the idea behind that is trying to categorize those changes so and the translator or anyone who was involved in that translation, that localization process, will see that, will learn from that. We have translation memo, we have a glossary, we have style guides sometimes. That's helpful. But again, this has to add on top of that something else that really helps people to understand, okay, so why I'm making this change? Because last time I made this change in here to change the tone, but I'm receiving again in a different tone, this translation. So should I add a comment here to explain why I'm making this change? So the translator can learn from that. So next time he knows, okay, oh, I got it. So they are making this change because they want this piece here to be more informal because this is the banner in their website and they want to cause so I don't know maybe additional impact to the target audience. Just to pick an example, but I could not think of any other better. But the idea here is again to teach the translators or people that are working on the content how you want that to be sent to you, right? Or maybe how the client want to receive that. So that's the goal of the review. So that's basically the only real difference you have when it comes to translating content as a translator, translating reviewing content as a reviewer in the platform. Everything else is virtually identical. Let me see here the comments. Bulgaria, okay, I'm going to have a look at the Marietta question, the other question before that as well. Thank you, Michael. Yes, so that's the goal. Oh, okay. Can no longer. Is anyone else having problems with the audio? If so, please let me know. I hope not. But anyway, so thank you for your comments, Michael, as well. And yeah, that's the real goal here. Try to understand the concept behind all that. Some good is not either. Okay. Is it like my voice is can you hear well? Is breaking up? Okay, perfect. All right. Probably it was I'm my internet or something. Apologize for that. And now let's cover some of the items I have received here in the chat. Let me just screw back to my comments. All right. So to Caroline's question, let me again impersonate my account. So Caroline mentioned that she created an account in the platform and she had a glossary, translation memory, but she could not store content on those assets, right? So one thing, when you create your account, that in the context, so let's talk about first translation memories. Automatically, the platform will create one glossary, one translation memory for you. First thing you have to have a look is if the source and target languages that you'll be using are available. If not, you have to add those. So for instance, excuse me, this one is from translation memory is English into all those languages here. And let's say, okay, I want to translate this into Korean. I don't have Korean here. Okay. So I have to add Korean to my glossary. So that's excuse me, my translation memory, and the same for the glossary, same process. If I have a language that I want to translate into is not in my glossary, I have to add in here before I use it, right? So that's the first step. Second step is, okay, now that I have the translation memory and glossary here, I want to associate that to my organizational unit. Um, I'm not going to explain uh, how exactly all this works, but basically, for if someone has question about it, so basically, organizations can be used like as departments, can use it by to segregate content type, segregate clients, right? So it can be used in many different ways. Are the basic compartments. So in my example, I have this organization that's BWX training unit. Maybe I could create another one that's called BWX demonstration unit, BWX real project units, BWX, I don't know, training for translators, so I can segregate them in a way that makes more sense. So what that does? So first thing, the project that I create will be part of a specific organization, or I can create different projects in different units. For instance, the projects that I'm creating right now are under this organization unit. So that's the first thing. Second thing, this organization can use a template. So for instance, whenever I try to create a project here, automatically it's going to pull this source and target languages to help me out. Like so I don't have to manually select that again, every time that I'm creating a project. And of course, when I'm creating this project, I can override this at the project level, right? So, but the idea here is to give you a template so you can adjust accordingly. And now in this scenario that we're talking about, to um, to keep your translation memory, to keep your context, translation memory and glossaries in here. So for instance, now that I have the translation memory and glossary created, I want to go in here. I want to select that this is my default translation memory. This is read and write. This is default. So now, whenever I create a new project, from now on, this will be added automatically to the project. So, uh, of course, as long as these languages, the language that is in the project is also available in this translation memory in this block, right? So, for instance, if I go in here, now I click on new project, let me upload any given file in here, my sample documents, I'm going to upload this Word document, already. Okay, so I just have one, right? So I just have one organization, so automatically you just select that. Again, as I mentioned, use a template, so it already select the language that I select at the organization level, like this. And I can override here, remove language at the languages, automatically select translation memory glossaries, which will be in read and write modes based on my choices that I made at the organization level, right? But let's say that I want this translation memory to be, or the glossary to be here, to be part of this organization unit, but I don't want them to be default. What that means? That can you guys still hear me? So my internet seems to be breaking up a little bit. Anyway, so this means that as I remove this, when I create a project, that's not going to be automatically selected. So if I create a project now, and I say, okay, so for this project that I created in here, I want to add this translation memory. I want to add this glossary, but the project will be created empty, like this, right? Why don't we? So that's a question maybe you ask me. So why don't you automatically select default, read, write, default here? Because there are clients, which are multiple actually, who have like several translation memories, which are only applicable for some particular projects under the same organization, right? So, and we as a tech company, as a platform, we cannot make assumptions like that because then can create, they can be actually restricted. So imagine a scenario where I have this training org units here, where I have marketing translation memory, legal translation memory, just a bad example maybe, but that can happen. And then when I create that, those translation memories and glossaries, the platform assumes that I want to use that. I want to read, write, and have them as default. But maybe I don't want that. And maybe if I store content in the legal translation memory that's marketing, that can be a huge problem, right? So that's why, just respond to the question that you may have, why we don't do that automatically is to avoid making assumptions that can be harmful for users of the platform. When the assumption does not really harmful, does not create like problems or does not have the possibility of creating huge problems, sometimes we can make those. But in these scenarios where they can really be destructive or create like huge problem, we don't do it just because that will be on us, right? So maybe for you, you want that to be like default for every single demonstration members in Glossary equation. But for many other people, that's not the case. With that said, that's one thing that I would like to hear from you. You can comment on the LinkedIn website, on the LinkedIn post about like this. So for instance, what I just said that we're not making assumptions, maybe we could add to the platform an option so you can decide, okay, for every translation memory and every glossary that I create, I want them to be before read and write. So then you are making a decision consciously that you are saying that, okay, I want that to be automatically added to my project, right? So anyway, going back to the project, then I can, if I do not select read and write and default automatically, I can go in here and I have to do it. So I don't know if that responds. Let me scroll back to the questions in here. I don't know if Carolina is already still there, but I don't know if that responds to the question, but most likely is this related to that, related to having not associated with the organization unit, or maybe associated with the organization unit, but not uh, in read and write mode. And with that, uh, and with that, it is probably not storing your content. That's why you can't see it well, right? Guys, we are right on time, and I have more questions. I will take notes in here so I can cover in the next section. And I apologize for to be overtiming here. Uh, but can I select read and write after? Yes, you can. You can select read and write afterwards. So let's say that, actually, I think I understand your question. So you can. So let's say that you create the project, the file is already confirmed. You can select afterward, but all the segments that you previously confirmed will not be stored. So you start storing content from now on. So let's say that probably you are testing the platform, right? My recommendation would be creating additional workflow step. And then in this additional workflow step, you just confirm the segments again. You go in there, open the file, and do a confirm all. Oh, I don't have access to this project. Okay. So you do a confirm all at the bottom of your screen. Let me see if you have. There we go. Segments, confirm all. So as an account admin, you should have this option here. Then all those segments will be stored in your transition memory, but that's not retroactive. So that's going to be, you have to do that if you already have confirmed the segment. You have to confirm all the segments again. So they're going to be stored in your translation memory, if that makes sense, right? So again, I apologize for being late. So we are 6 minutes over time here. And I thank you all for your time. And again, I want to keep doing this session. So please, we're going to send a reminder about the next session that will be next Wednesday, probably earlier in the day. But if you have questions, if you have comments, you have items that would like us me to cover in the follow-up sessions, let me know. That's the goal. That's for you. Let's try to help you to maybe share some knowledge with you and also to learn for you. Because again, I'm making decisions to our product based on feedback from people, actual feedback. We want to resolve actual problems in this localization industry. You make change, create a huge impact to it, and make your lives better. And that's the goal. The question, this the session for you, and I'll keep doing it. And I hope you like it. And about the Bulgarian, oh, projects from start to finish. Perfect, Marietta. Sure. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was talking too fast. Okay. Next session, I'll promise that I'm going to cover that. I'll take notes for it and I'll talk about the Bulgarian language so we can show you. If anyone else has specific language that they would like to see how the platform performs, please let me know. I of course do not speak Bulgarian, but if you guide me, I can certainly try to make some changes to the segment so you can see how it behaves and etc. And of course, we will have to rely on adding content to the translation memory, to the glossary, and all that, so I can learn from for us. But I mean, I'll be happy to do it, and I'll try to speak slowly in the next session. And again, I apologize if my internet broke up a little bit, or if I was speaking too fast. And yeah, and again, I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate most importantly your time. I hope that was helpful for you all, and I look forward to see you in the next session next week. Next Wednesday, we're going to again send a reminder, and please share your comments, questions, and ideas for our follow-up sessions, so I can prepare a session based on what the items that are going to be more beneficial for you all. Right? Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Take care. Have a nice day or end of day, and see you next week.